Now let's bring in Wedbush Securities' Dan Ives and CNBC contributor Bryn Talkington of Requisite Capital. Dan, I come to you first. It's great to have you both with us. The street would seem to believe, only going, of course, through what the chart has shown us, that the worst is behind this name. You believe it is?
Oh, yeah, I think the worst is in the rearview mirror because, look, that was the Musk brand issues, what we saw with deliveries. Now you're seeing a stabilization. China continues to be the key, as Phil talked about, and I think that's actually an upward trajectory. Look, the reality is that's just an appetizer. It just sets the table to now it's going to be its most important chapter of growth ever, the autonomous and robotics future. And I think that's what's really the focus here. We think autonomous worth $1 trillion alone. That will be key on the call, laying out, we believe, 30 to 35 cities within the next year. That's how you get to a $2 trillion market cap. And we ultimately believe it's $3 trillion by the end of next year. And now this starts that golden chapter.
This idea of stabilizing, deliveries are still down 6%, I think, year over year. You had a pickup before the expiration of the tax credits expiring. So we have to be careful not to read too much into that for the overall story, I would think. And then if you look at the international picture, it doesn't look good. So what leads you to believe that the story truly has turned?
Well, I think it's really China. I mean, if you look at all the numbers coming out of China, I expect Musk to hit on the call. Stabilization to growth. You have refreshes coming out. You'll be on a trajectory going into next year, 550K per quarter. Look, in that, I mean, it's obviously that's very important, but the reality, what's going to drive the stock going forward, it's the AI chapter of growth that's coming. I mean, I believe as a physical AI play, Tesla and NVIDIA, the two best out there. And now you actually start to see rubber meet the road. This is going to be the key. Stabilization on the core business. But I mean, that's why Musk right now, wartime CEO, eventually XAI, the shareholder meeting, they'll own part of that. This becomes an AI story going forward.
Yeah, Bryn, I know how much of a fan you are of Musk. I mean, you've said as much, but that doesn't mean you're a huge fan of the stock, which frankly you haven't been over the last, 5-6 months or so. So where does that leave somebody like you as a shareholder today?
Well, to me, it's about adding to the position and then taking advantage when I feel it's overpriced. I added to the position, as we all know, around 290 when he announced the American Party, also at 320. And so once again, when he continues to do his little side hustles, the market sells off. It's a wonderful time to add to it. Right now, we're still too close, I think, from a stock perspective to that 2024 high, which is around in the 460s. And so I think that as we go into this earnings call, to kind of build on what Dan was saying, I do think we have peak EV sales over this quarter will be peak because of those pull forwards. But I don't think that is what's going to move the stock. And just to give some examples, with full self-driving, with the robo-taxis, I saw Sawyer made a really interesting post that in Q3, they announced that when you were using the autopilot, there was one crash every 6.3 million miles. If you look at NHTSA's data with just regular cars, it's one every 700,000. So that's incredible. And so I think that the market's going to want to see, are robo-taxis in Austin and the other cities going to be able to go unsupervised, like Elon said in the summer? And so I think it's going to come down to execution of the robo-taxis in the short term. I also think Optimus, he's done podcasts. Those hands are really hard to get right. I think we're still going to be in that prototype stage as they roll out Optimus 3. So to your point about the stock price, I would add to the position around 390. I do think it's going to be constrained here up around it's at 436, but if it gets to 460, I don't see this quarter being the quarter that it breaks out.
See, Dan, that's so interesting to me because you have somebody who I think in the bigger picture is as bullish as you, but certainly has a more sober view of where the stock currently is, where it's come from, to where it is and where it might go in the near term. So how do you rebut that if you want to?
Yeah, and Bryn obviously brings up great points. I mean, to me, it's really about, picking your spots. it's obviously always tough on Tesla. I just view it as the underlying demand is stable relative to China. Margins, as Phil talked about, I think that slight uptick, going forward next few quarters. But Scott, the reality is like the autonomous market, I think they're going to own 80% of it, in terms of worldwide. And this now starts, when you look at Optimus, I believe they'll talk about, what's going to be volume production in 2026. And that's why this is the most important chapter ever in Tesla's history. And that's why Musk right now is so engaged. And look, could you miss, like here or there in terms of where the stock's going to go? But my view is this is a stock going to 700, and I think beyond, just given where this now plays in the AI revolution. And I think Tesla continues to be the most undervalued AI name in the market.